Hello, my name's Andrew Brooks. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And in this episode, we're going to be Mach Show. Mach Show. Thank you once again for joining me, and as I said in the intro, it's all Mach Show, Mach Show. So that obviously relates to when the Beatles were in Hamburg and appearing in all the nightclubs over there, you know, the Kaiser Keller, the Star Club, the Top 10 Club, the Indra Club, and all of those places. And they were told by Bruno, Mach Show, to draw the crowds in. So anyway, that's what this episode's about. I'd just like to say thank you very much for all the new subscribers and all the comments I get. It's fantastic to read your comments, and I do read each one. And if I think it needs a reply, or you're asking for a reply, I'll try my best to do it. So anyway, on with the episode. So you may be talking, or you may be even thinking, why Hamburg? Why are you talking about Hamburg now when all this Get Back stuff is coming out? I thought I'd go the opposite way. I could have talked about the rooftop concert or the Apple Times and stuff like that. But no, I thought let's go the other way and let's go back to not where it started, because that was Liverpool, but where they learned their stuff. You know, where they learned their art and the band was sort of gelled together. Now, some of you may have seen in my previous video about the BBC sessions and how I enjoy the BBC sessions, because basically it's the stuff that they would have been playing out in Hamburg and in the early gigs, but beautifully recorded. And the BBC did a fantastic job on the production. George Martin produced the album, but the original engineers, they recorded the tracks pretty fine. However, obviously, there were earlier recordings of the Beatles than the BBC stuff, and I'm talking about the legendary Star Club album. Some hate it, some love it. I love it personally because I just think it's fantastic to hear how they would have sounded in a dingy club. And for me to have sat in that club and heard them for 8 hours just knocking out rock and roll classics. Now, according to the Lewisham book, I was doing a little bit of research beforehand, and according to the Lewisham book, they very rarely repeated tracks or songs in their sets because they thought it would be a time to sort of broaden their repertoire, so to speak. So without much further ado, let's look at one of these albums. And this is my copy of said album. It's an original 1977 issue. I think that's when it first came out. This is a German copy, although it has got English writing on the back, but it does say high quality pressing, made in Germany, up the top there. And inside, half of it's in English and half of it's in German. So this is my original 1977 copy. I have seen other copies from the same time with a slightly different sleeve. I think it might have even had that sort of picture on the front, but this is mine anyway. It's on the Bellafon label. So just looking into the history of how this album came about, really. Let's go with some facts. All right, so the Beatles first went out to Hamburg and they first performed at the Indra Club on the 17th of August 1960, not 1970, 1960. They stayed there for a little while and they moved to the Kaiser Keller on the 4th of October in 1960. And then later in October, they moved to the Top 10 Club until the 21st of November, when Paul and Pete got arrested and George got deported for being underage. And Pete and Paul got arrested for setting fire to the condom on the wall of the Kaiser Keller. Or was it the Bambikino where they were staying? I forget. It's one of them two. It's probably the Bambikino, actually, the cinema, and they were sleeping behind the screen there. However, they were allowed back in after a bit of negotiation, I think, by Peter Eckhorn, and they went back to the Top 10 Club back in 1961. So just under a year later, 27th of March 1961 to the 2nd of July 1961, and they played the Top 10 Club. I think they were probably getting a little bit tired of Hamburg by then, but they were booked into the Star Club on the 13th of April 1962 until the 31st of May 1962. Now you think of that important date, 1962. What happened in October? They had their first single out. So in the time coming back from Hamburg, the Star Club gigs there, and the end of the year, they were recording artists signed to EMI. However, they were contracted to go back out to Germany and Hamburg. So on the 1st of November to the 14th of November, they played the Star Club. So you've got to remember this is now post Love Me Do coming out, because that was out in the October, and they had a new drummer. Ringo now replaced Pete, and sadly Stuart had died. So we now have the Beatles as we know them performing. Before then, they were a 5-piece, weren't they? It was, obviously John, Paul, and George. We had Pete Best drumming and Stuart Sutcliffe on bass. And in fact, if you look at the picture behind me, this is from Paul's new book, and I've never seen this picture. I've seen cropped versions of this picture before, and it's all 5 of them in one of those clubs in Hamburg. And I think that's a great picture. But so anyway, they then go back for one final session, and they really didn't want to go back. If you read Mark Lewisham's book, you can tell from the interviews that he's done, they really didn't want to go back. So on the 18th of December, they returned to the Star Club for their last contract in Hamburg, and they played all the way up to New Year's Eve, 31st of December 1962. That's when this was recorded. Amazing that it actually had Ringo on drums, if you think about it. I mean, it could have been recorded beforehand, and how great would that have been to hear the 5-piece Beatles maybe with Stuart, because there are bootlegs out there of Stuart with the Beatles, home recordings in I think it's John Lennon's front porch or George's room or bedroom or whatever, but that's for another episode. But so 31st of December 1962, Ted King Size Taylor, who was in another band who was out in Hamburg at the time, he had a reel-to-reel recorder. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to put a link up, probably about here somewhere. And it's a link to a TV program called Nationwide, which we used to have over here. It's like a news documentary sort of thing. And in the early 70s, they tracked down Ted King Size Taylor, and he talks about finding the legendary tape. So if you click on the link that's up there, it will take you to that documentary. So so basically Ted King Size Taylor set up a reel-to-reel recorder, tape recorder, had it on a slow record speed so he could get maximum amount of recording on there. And not only did he record Beatles, he recorded other bands and acts that were on. Cliff Bennett and the Rebel Rousers, I seem to remember one of the tracks he recorded there. Now, he set it, as I say, set it up, and he actually got the Beatles recording 37 songs in 100 minutes. So that's quite good going, really. 37 songs in 100 minutes, and when you hear them play on here, you can hear that really fast. And he recorded 3 sets, but only 5 songs were actually duplicated. As I said, they didn't like to duplicate the songs that they played, even though probably the bar, transient people coming in and out, people who hadn't heard what they played an hour earlier, so they heard a totally different act. Now there are, as I say, 37 songs, and I suspect that with all the different releases, I don't think we will ever find or ever discover the actual running order, the correct running order, because in all the copies of it I've got, there's all different running orders, and I would love to, if any of you know the correct running order of these tracks, that'd be fab, because I'll be able to piece it together. Okay, here's the list. So the 37 songs were Beat Bopalula. I saw her standing there. Now that's interesting, because that's one of the songs that they do actually perform twice. You've got Hallelujah, I Love Her So, My Girl Is Red Hot, Sheila, Kansas City, Shimmy Shimmy, Dance Like My Sister Kate, I think is the title, Reminiscing, Red Sails in the Sunset, Sweet Little 16. You've got Roll Over Beethoven, Taste of Honey, Ain't Nothing Shaking Like the Leaves on a Tree. A second I saw her standing there. To Know Her Is to Love Her, Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby, Till There Was You, Where Have You Been All My Life, Lend Me Your Comb. I love that song, Lend Me Your Comb. Your Feet's Too Big, and I'm Talking About You, another version of Taste of Honey. And you've got Roadrunner, Hippie Hippie Shake, Taste of Honey again, Matchbox, Little Queenie, Roll Over Beethoven again, I Remember You, Ask Me Why, which is obviously, Lennon McCartney song. However, we get No Love Me Do. We get Ask Me Why. We've got Besame Mucho, Mr. Moonlight, Falling in Love Again, I'm Gonna Sit Right Down and Cry Over You, Talking About You, Another Long Tall Sally, and Twist and Shout. So they are the 37 songs that we get on. Well, we don't get them all on this album. I think there's like 25 of them on this album, but I think they all have since came out since 1977, and I'm sure there must be a bootleg with all 37 on there. However, I thought it would be quite interesting to show you other versions. So this is a real nasty cheap cassette here, Rare Beatles. But again, it's got some of the tracks. Beat Bop Alula, Long Tall Sally, Feet's Too Big, and it's a horrible cassette. But back in the day, that's all we had. We've got a couple of CDs here. This is the Beatles 1962 live recordings, which I think sort of mirrors the album I showed you. However, there is 30 tracks on this one. So we're getting there. We're only 7 short now. Now this one is an odd bit of an oddball. This is a Japanese CD. I'll open it up for you if I can get the lid off. There we go. And inside we've got sort of a latter picture there. But when you look at the actual the track listing that's included, I mean, there's some nice colour photos, but totally out of sync with the content. But not only have you got some of the Beatles in Hamburg stuff on here, but you've also got some of the Decca audition tapes and Three Cool Cats and things like that. So it's a bit of a mishmash on the CD. But as I say, it's called Vintage Gold 2. And that's a Japanese issue. Now, this I quite like. Is a box set, 7-inch singles, and it is the same people who have done this CD, and they've issued a box set of 7-inch singles containing all the tracks. So there must be 15 in here. There we go. So here's the little hype sticker that came on the front. Available for the first time 7-inch singles, including this individually numbered limited edition box set. Oh, I didn't even know it was numbered. There we are. Oh yeah, number 707. And 15 singles, each containing 2 classic live Beatles recordings, each sleeve and a picture with comprehensive sleeve notes, a reproduction of a 1962 postcard, which is that one there, Beatles at the Star Club. A reproduction of the 1962 concert poster. I say concert poster, which is a reproduction of what was probably in the as you went into the club, because it down here it says with the Beatles, Tex Robey, Roy Young graduates and the Bachelors, Tony Sheridan Quartet, and Jerry and the Pacemakers. So that's that. And then it says with a reproduction 1962 pennant. Or I'll say reproduction. It's just a photocopy on the back of the reproduction poster, but it's quite nice anyway. And then also we have a complete track listing, which is on the inside of the box, and then we have sort of a little advert here, and they say that on the September the 8th 1988, 25 years after they first issued, Collector Direct made a successful bid for the last remaining official Beatles fan club badges at Christie's auction rooms in London. They are now very pleased to provide an opportunity while stocks last for a small number of collectors to own one of these original badges, and for £10 it can be yours basically, and it's that badge there. So back in the day, if you sent off your £10, you got one of those badges, which apparently are one of the last remaining before they were all sold out. So going back to the box set, here's the picture the picture sleeve. Unfortunately, they are all the same. Every single sleeve is all the same. However, on the back, it's the same writing, but you can see there's the track listing, and the other side of the label is there. And this one is, I saw it standing there on the A side with nothing shaking but the leaves on the tree. That's the B side. And as I say, there's 15 singles in here, lots more, and it is the 30 tracks that appeared on that CD. Okay, one final little tidbit. I do recall in the dim and distant past, in the 1980s, I heard on the grapevine in the rumour mill that some colour footage had been unearthed from the Beatles playing in Hamburg. Now, I was amazed, and I really wanted to see it. And that story came and went, and nothing ever was shown. I never saw a copy. And then it came up for auction, and then it transpired that it was actually the Beatles performing in Liverpool at a Valentine's Day or a Valentine's night gig. So that would have been the 14th of October, the 14th of February, 1962, which predates this. And it is absolutely fantastic to see them in colour, because it's not been colourised or anything. It was actually filmed like that, in colour, in their leathers, how they would be playing in Hamburg. And I've put a little link up here for you to click on, and you can see it for yourself. And someone has put some Star Club music over the top, but when you look at it, it's just incredible. Anyway, that's my take on the Beatles Live at the Star Club album. I know it has been reprinted, repressed, issued, reissued hundreds of times in different formats. And there is actually news footage of George going into the High Court in London to try and get this stopped. And if you click here, there's a link to that particular news footage. Yeah, and George was the only Beatle that actually turned up at the High Court to try and get it stopped. He basically represented the rest of them and Apple. Unfortunately, I don't think it actually stopped the release. There was a release coming out in the States, and it had been issued or something, and I don't think it stopped that. However, I think what actually happened was Apple bought the recordings, and that was it. Bang. Never to be seen again, apart from a little snippet on the anthology. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it interesting. As I say, I didn't want to go down the same route as everyone else, talking about Get Back and the new Let It Be film and the rooftop and all of that. I thought, let's do something different. Let's go back to the early days before they hit the big time, and just how I sort of stumbled across it, really. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Probably by now there's a couple of videos up here which I think you might enjoy, and I'll see you next time.